Hi friends! For Read Aloud today, we're going to read the story Little Red Riding Hood. The author of this story is Bonnie Dobkin, and the illustrator is Subhendu Carmaker. What does an author do? The author writes the words. Great job! What does an illustrator do? The illustrator draws the pictures. Great job remembering, friends. And let's go over the parts of the book. This is the front of the book. This is the back of the book. Good job. And this is the spine. It holds the pages together. Great job. Now, Little Red Riding Hood is a story about a little girl whose mother told her to go straight to her grandmother's house. But, she didn't listen. Let's find out what happens in this story. Once upon a time, a little girl lived with her mother and brother in a small cottage by the edge of a forest. Her favorite piece of clothing was a long red cape with a soft silky hood. She wore it so often that soon everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood was bored and looking for something to do. "You could sweep the floors," she said, her mother said, who was busy painting the fence. "No," said Little Red Riding Hood, "I don't think that's what I want to do." "You could help clean the yard," said her brother, who was busy chopping wood. "No," said Little Red Riding Hood, "I know that isn't what I want to do." "Then you could visit your grandmother," said her mother. "You're old enough to go by yourself, and you haven't seen her for weeks." "That's exactly what I want to do," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Grandmother lives on the other side of the woods. It'll be an adventure." So, Little Red Riding Hood's mother packed a basket full of treats for the girl to take to her grandmother. "Just remember," said her mother, "the woods can be very dangerous. So, when you leave, go straight to your grandmother's and do not be late." "She won't listen," said her brother. "Yes, she will." "Yes, I will," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Of course she will," said her mother. "Oh, and dear, something else before you go. Only talk to those you know." "She won't listen," said her brother. "Yes, I will," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Of course she will," said her mother. "Oh, and one last thing, sweetheart. From the path you shouldn't stray, or you could get lost someday." "She won't listen," said her brother. "Yes, I will," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Of course she will," said her mother. "Goodbye, dear. Give your grandmother a big hug for me." "Yes, Mother," said Little Red Riding Hood. Then she headed out the door, down the path, and into the forest. There was so much to see in the woods: a sleeping owl, a giant mushroom, an amazing spider web. Then Little Red Riding Hood remembered what her mother said. "When you leave, please go straight to your grandmom's and don't be late." But, thought Red Riding Hood, Mother surely would want me to enjoy the forest. So she stopped and looked around. Just then, a dark shape stepped out from behind one of the trees. It was a wolf, and he was smiling and charming. "Why, hello, little girl," said the wolf. "Isn't this a lovely day?" Little Red Riding Hood remembered what her mother said. Something else before you go. Only talk to those you know. But, thought Little Red Riding Hood, he seems like such a friendly wolf. Mother surely won't want me to be rude. Hello, Mr. Wolf, said Little Red Riding Hood. Yes, it is a lovely day. And you seem to be such a delicious, by which I mean delightful, child. The wolf's smile grew even bigger. What might be your name? Everyone calls me Little Red Riding Hood, said the girl. A splendid name, said the wolf. And where might you be headed, Little Red, if I may call you that? You may, said Little Red Riding Hood. I'm bringing my grandmother this basket of treats. She lives just on the other side of the forest. How kind of you, the wolf said. In fact, wouldn't your grandmother like a lovely bouquet of wildflowers as well? There are just some over that hill, down by the edge of the river. Red Riding Hood remembered what her mother said. From the path you shouldn't stray, or you could get lost someday. But, thought Little Red, Mother surely would definitely want me to bring grandmother some flowers. That's a wonderful idea, Mr. Wolf. I'll pick some right away. And she scampered off into the woods. Goodbye, Little Red, the wolf called after her. I'm sure we'll meet again very soon. And then he whispered, by which I mean for lunch. The moment Red Riding Hood disappeared, the wolf dashed down the path towards grandmother's cottage. He tapped lightly on the door. Grandmother, he said in his best little girl voice, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red? Really? How wonderful, said Grandmother. Grandmother flew open the door. Wait, she said, you're not Red Riding Hood. Sadly, no, said the wolf, by which I mean goodbye, and he swallowed the grandmother in one gulp. And now, said the wolf, patting his stomach, I'll wait for dessert. What do you think he means by that? He'll wait for dessert. Sometime later, Red Riding Hood came out of the woods. She was dirty and rumpled, and there were burrs in her hair. It was much harder to find the path again than I thought it would be. She was surprised to find her grandmother's door wide open. Oh, no. She stepped inside. Grandmother, are you home? Yes, dear. Came a scratchy voice from the bedroom. But I'm in bed. I'm afraid I have a nasty cold. Red Riding Hood followed the voice into the bedroom. The curtains were closed, and it was very dark. Grandmother was wearing a floppy nightcap, and the blankets were pulled up past her nose. Red Riding Hood moved towards the bed. Grandmother's eyes looked very odd. That means strange. Why, Grandmother, she said, what big eyes you have. The better to see you with, my dear. Come close so I can give you a hug. Red Riding Hood took another step and saw two odd triangles poking up under the nightcap. And Grandmother, what big ears you have. The better to hear you with, my dear. Can you come a bit closer still? Just then, the blanket slipped from the grandmother's face and revealed two rows of very sharp teeth. But, Grandmother, said the Red Riding Hood, what big teeth you have. The better to eat you with, roared the wolf, leaping out of Grandmother's bed. Red Riding Hood screamed. She ran out of the bedroom, through the main room, and into the kitchen, slamming doors behind her. She clambered into the cabinet and yanked the door shut. Oh, why didn't I listen to Mother? She thought. If I hadn't stopped in the woods, I would have never have met the wolf. If I hadn't talked to the wolf, I wouldn't have left the path. If I hadn't left the path, I wouldn't have been late to Grandmother's, and none of this would have happened. In the kitchen, she could hear the wolf calling to her. "Where are you, Little Red? There's no need to hide, by which I mean I'm going to find you and eat you, no matter what." Just then, something crashed. A voice yelled, and dishes smashed. The sounds got louder and louder and wilder, and then everything was quiet. Little Red Riding Hood peeked out from the cabinet. There stood her brother, his axe in one hand. He was helping Grandmother out of the wolf. "Thank you, dear," said Grandmother. "It was very dark in there." The brother looked at Red Riding Hood. "I knew you wouldn't listen." Little Red Riding Hood scrambled out of the cabinet and gave her brother a big, big hug. "You were right, but I will listen from now on." Then Little Red Riding Hood, her brother, and their grandmother all sat down together to eat the treats from the basket. The end. Great job listening to that story, friends. What would you have done? Would you have listened to your mother or not? Tell someone in your family what you would have done if you were Little Red Riding Hood. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.